Ah,
Rah.
hey, we gotta
Hey.
throw. Yes, welcome.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
You're
Welcome
welcome.
everyone. No, you.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Thanks, buddy.
yeah, welcome everybody to Don't Worry Wednesday. This is a show we do on Wednesdays that's all about you guys, and we love being here. We love doing this show
Mm.
with you guys. We love
Yep.
hanging out and talking about your topics and everything like that. If you would like to leave a topic for us to talk about, you can go to don'tworrywednesday.com and you can click the submit a topic button and then fill out the form there, and then it will get in our queue and we will handle your topic. So also, if you have a topic for us tonight and you're here, you can feel free to at Princess Yellow in the chat, and she will go ahead and get that queued up for us so we can do your topic tonight. But we are not professionals in any sense of the word, really. We're not professional therapists for sure. We're not professional counselors or psychologists or psychiatrists. We're not a substitute for therapy in any way. We just want to be your friend. We want to help in any way we can. We want to just offer you some love and encouragement and some perspective along the way, and be friendly and help you know that you're not alone. Whatever it is that you're going through, we've gone through a lot of stuff ourselves. And, it's been asked, how the heck do we think we're qualified to do a show like this? And really, the qualifier isn't that, we're all that great or we have all this knowledge about psychology. It's just that we've been through some stuff. And we continue to go through stuff, and that's just how life is, really. I mean, in life we go through stuff, and sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it's confusing, and sometimes we get focused on one little piece of a really complicated issue and we miss some other part of it. And so sometimes it helps to have an outside perspective to really dig in and understand the whole picture, because sometimes when we're focused on one little element, we can make a bad turn. I've made really bad turns before. Have you, Ryan? Ryan actually hasn't. I think Ryan has pretty much made the right decision whenever he comes across things. Like, so his advice is really, really valuable.
Yeah, like that time when I was like just first got to like driving and I made a really good turn. So I was like at a gas station and I pulled out and I turned right into another car. It was great.
Mm,
I've
that was the
never
right
made a
move.
wrong turn. That turn was right. That was a correct turn. The police officer that came by, he said that it wasn't, but hey, I mean, he's just he doesn't know the law or whatever. So it's like I did it. I did good.
Yes, Kat, you are so good at giving advice. We should have you as a guest on this show,
That's
actually.
right.
We totally should. We've talked about having guests on this show.
Mm.
What do you do when you get pulled over by the police? Actually, I can tell you what to do when you get pulled over by the police. I've experienced that.
Run.
Run.
No, don't run. Don't run.
No, that's the wrong move.
Bad ride, bad.
No.
Don't make this change into don't get arrested.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, no kidding. Wow.
Don't get arrested. The show.
Don't get arrested Wednesday. That doesn't flow as well as Don't Worry Wednesday, Oh man. Anyway, wow. So thank you guys for being here. You guys look great in the chat. It's great to be here with you guys. So how are you all doing? How are you doing tonight, Ryan?
I'm doing wonderful, actually. I'm doing very good, very good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm fantastic. You wouldn't even believe it.
Right.
With me tonight, I'm Joe. You can tell by my name down there in the corner. With me is Ryan. He goes by Static P. Also with us.
You can tell me whatever you can call me whatever you want.
We can.
Yeah. You don't have to follow the script. You don't have
Ryan, Rye, Babe. Yeah, all that.
Yeah.
Yep, it works.
Cutie. That's good.
Cutie pie.
Cutie rye.
Cutie rye. Cutie pie rye.
Stupid.
Rye pie. Ooh, I'm gonna start calling you Rye Pie.
You don't want to call me stupid?
No, man.
You can. It's
I'm
an
not
option.
gonna.
Whatever.
I'm not gonna. But
Okay.
anyway, yeah. And with us also is Princess. She runs the show behind the
Right, babe?
scenes.
Yeah.
She is so.
That's a very common one. My mom uses that a lot.
Yep. It's right, babe.
Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just saw
You
Ash
totally
say it. Go
interrupted
on.
me.
I'm so
I
sorry.
mean, do you want to host the show? You can totally host.
Yeah, no. It's on you. It's on you, buddy. You got this.
It's on me. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Cool. So yes, so I'm your host, and with me is the star of the show, Ryan, right there. He's looking fantastic as usual. And with us also is Princess. She runs the show behind the scenes. She categorizes everything, catalogs everything. She keeps track of all of our topics, and she does such a great job. And she now more and more she shows up on screen, like right now. She's about to make an appearance. Right? See, like right there. See, that's Princess. Yes,
I know her.
I know,
Hey.
right? I do too.
Whoa.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Yes, and one of these days we're going to get a screen that has all three of us on here, and so that's going to be really fun. But yes, it's while Ryan and I are up here just yakking away, you know, Princess is back there working her buns off, you know, just like going crazy, you know, making sure all your topics are there and ready for us and everything. So, yes, thank you, Princess, for all that you do for this show. She also keeps us on track, which is quite a task. We have a little private chat going on too, where she sends us messages like, come on.
True.
Yep, it's awesome. So anyway, yeah, I think I covered just about everything. So how about we get going and start our first topic? What do you think?
That sounds great.
Does that sound like a good plan? What I'm going to do, I'm going to refresh my tab over here.
That won't help you.
See what we have. Oh, it's not going to help right now.
That won't help you. That won't help you now, Batman.
Oh my goodness. You guys are so great. Yes. Princess Girl Boss. That's what it is. But yeah, we've got a handful of topics that we can do here, and Princess is working to get us one here. Oh, here we go. We have one from an anonymous.
We both agree. We all agree, I guess.
Yes, it is a good look for Princess. I'm gonna put her back on just because. Look at that. Look at her hair.
Aw, see,
it's gorgeous.
Gorgeous. Did you see Did you see the hair? Gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Thank you for humoring us, Princess.
If you can figure out how to spell gorgeous, I would be I'd be happy to see that spelling.
So anyway, all right. So we have a topic now. This is from an anonymous person.
All right.
Yes, and this is called "How to Support a Partner in Depression." And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this topic up on the screen, and then you guys can read along while Princess reads it aloud. What, Ryan?
Nothing.
You get you got all kinds of intermittent comments tonight. It's amazing. I love it. Now you're just smiling and shaking your head.
I have nothing to say. It's your turn. You just go.
All right. So I'm going to put this topic up on the screen, and then Princess can read it while you guys read along. So, Princess, whenever you're ready.
How do I help someone who is depressed? My partner recently told me that they have depression. They told me that they didn't want to tell me because they didn't want to worry me or make me uncomfortable. They said that they've been experiencing it for a while and just told themselves that it would go away. But it hasn't. In fact, they said it has only gotten worse and worse. They told me I keep trying to think about the future, but it seems so irrelevant when every day feels like it could be your last. I want to help them so bad. but I never know the right things to say or how to say to them, or how to say them. I want to support them as best I can. Please give me some ideas on how I could help them. They say they're not suicidal, and I believe them, but that could change one of these days. I really wish now more than ever that I could see into their head. From
Mm.
Anonymous.
Mm. Anonymous, thank you so much for this topic. This is definitely one that's quite important, and it touches the heart, of what we do on this show. Because when we're in depression, it's such a dark place. It's such a hard place to be in. I've been depressed deeply for long periods of time in my life, and I know how much of a struggle it is, and I also have tried my best to help other people while they're depressed, and I also know on that side, to watch somebody go through that, it can be super duper hard. And Anonymous, my heart goes out to you, because I know that's such a tough position to be in. And it's hard to know what to say or what to do, and one day you might say one thing and it seems to work, and then the next day you say the same thing or something similar, and it seems to just go off the rails, because it can be an unpredictable time, just depending on what might be going on that particular day. And everything, it's just when we're in the middle of depression, it can be so hard. And I'm so impressed that you want to support. It says a lot about your heart that you want to, support them and help them as best you can. And so thank you. Thank you. Thank you for doing your best to be a friend. I would definitely, if somebody is telling you that they're depressed, one of my first questions would be, have you thought about talking to a counselor or a therapist or a psychologist, or you know, something, somebody who's a professional, because in the midst of that uh, turmoil that they're having, it can really, really help to have somebody who's studied how this all works. They can take a depression inventory to see how severe it is and to know what way to turn. I've even looked. My therapist went through depression inventory with me. Goes through it about once every few months, just to see how things are progressing. And sometimes things are looking better, sometimes they're looking worse. It's a roller coaster sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So, but those inventories are not available for the general public, because reading them takes training. And then a professional would have those tools to be able to really help in those ways. But as a friend, man, that is such a critical person to have for somebody who's depressed. One of the first questions that my therapist asked me when I started seeing her was, "Who's your support group? Who do you have around you that loves you? Who do you have around you that care about you, that you can talk to?" And I'm quite fortunate to have a pretty solid support group in a lot of different areas. And so for you to be one of those people for this person is so, so incredible and crucial. And if it's your partner, man, I mean, that's huge. So I'm impressed with you, and I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm so glad that you're there for them. But without further ado, I'm going to give it over to Ryan. I know Ryan has supported a lot of people through depression, and he's seen some things that work, some things that don't work, and I'm sure, will have some great information for you, Anonymous. So, Ryan, with that introduction, take it away.
Thank you. Good luck, me.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Good luck.
yeah, I guess it is true though. I mean, I've definitely supported a lot of people through depression. That's definitely the case.
Mm-hmm.
Um, doesn't mean that I have 100% success rate or know exactly what I'm doing, and that everyone's the same. Everyone is different. Um, and I like what Riku said right off the bat. They said, I feel like society puts so much pressure on us today. It's okay to feel sad is something a lot of people forget, me included. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's well said, Riku, and it's true. Society does put a lot of pressure on us, and we all have a different um, you know, our vision, our perspective of society and what pressures we have are different than other people's, right? How I might see society is going to be different than how you see society, and that goes for, you know, all sorts of different areas in life. Because it's not like a physical thing; it's a mental thing, and depression is generally a mental thing that causes physical problems. Um, so it's really great to hear that you want to help your partner. Of course you do, right? Um, Here's some tips that I can give you, at least to help you, um, help them the best you can, that I can from my experiences. The first thing is, um, what Joe said. Obviously, you're not a psychologist or a therapist or anything like that. So to push them in that direction is okay. And recognize that someone who's depressed might not do things without a little push.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't going to generally be compelled to do things, um, anything, generally speaking. Their desire to do a lot of things is going to be diminished by uh, the oppressive feeling of depression.
Mm-hmm.
So, or the depressing, right? It depresses you, like literally, just right in the word, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you're gonna, it's okay to push a little for their help. It's okay to have a little bit of tough love at times. Recognize that too tough is too tough, though, right? You do have to be gentle with your toughness. You want to support them, and if you can just sign them up for them, obviously you probably can't. But things like that, I know it feels like you're crossing boundaries, and it's like I shouldn't do this for this person. Like they're gonna be mad at me, and they have every right to be mad at me if I sign them up for therapy, right? Or if I push them into that situation where I'm saying, no, you need this, and then I get them to the place, like drive them there, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to you would think, wow, that's not in my nature to do this and to push them so hard. But at the same time, when there's something you love, you've got to fight for it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that means fighting against that something that's in their head that's stopping them from getting better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, when we're in a when you're in a relationship, a good one, each person's battles is the battles of you together. I mean, like one person's battle can be both people's battle because how their attitude is going to affect you. The way that they think about things is going to affect you, right? Everything that they do and think is affecting you. So you're in it together, right? And so you have to recognize that in that, when you are experiencing problems yourself, you would hope that they would help you through it, even if it means a little force. And likewise, they should want the same from you when they are struggling with something interiorly, and they've come to you with this thing. They've come to you now and they've said, "Hey, I've got depression," and now you're aware of it. It's okay to help them. It's okay to be a little pushy sometimes to help them. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Also, another important thing is to create the environment that's healthy for them, right? A healthy environment isn't one that's always focused on solving the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's one that generates goodness within them to solve the problem. Because in the end, you can only do so much. You can influence their behaviors and you can influence the way that they think by how you act, but you cannot change them out of your will. They change out of their own will. And they change out of the circumstances of their environment, right? We all do. We all grow up with our parents and we all do something similar to our parents and think similar to our parents in some way or another. And it's just natural to us because that's how we grew up, right? That's the environment we were given growing up. And so you see people, they might laugh a certain way or talk a certain way or walk a certain way. And it's like, wow, that's just like your mom or your dad. Similarly, we get our perspectives like, what things are good and what things are bad. Uh, why? Actually, anxiety and different forms of mental problems are passed on by generations because, and it's not necessarily a genetic thing, it's as much as it is a environment thing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I knew a girl who grew up with a incredibly anxious mom,
Mm-hmm.
and she grew up with anxiety problems because she was reflecting that from her mom. When she moved away, she started to dissolve those and remove those over time because she was no longer in the constant influence of someone, of like telling someone how to act when okay, when this happens, this is the appropriate response. Ah, right? And
Yeah.
then and that's not healthy, right? And so you get away from that unhealthy environment, and you start to work those things out of you, right? And so you want to create an environment for your partner that's like that. A good healthy environment. It isn't necessarily that you're trying to go in and tell them, okay, this is how you solve this problem. You act like this. This is how you solve this problem. When you think that in your head, think this way instead. Don't try to do that so much as spend time with them being healthy yourself, because that's what's going to rub off on them. Okay. When you, I've noticed in life for so many people across the board, so many people, when you start to work on yourself, other people start to follow.
Mm.
When you are spending time every day to become a better person, to spend more time um, and spend more intention on your attitude and just growing in whatever virtue it is that you need growth in, you'll if you spend that time doing that, you'll find people around you start to do the same thing. You'll find people around you start to grow in maybe that area or maybe different areas, but um, they are not just encouraged by your actions, but they're like strengthened by them to start moving in that direction. They want to move because they see you and they see you getting better, and that makes them feel good because you're making them feel good, and they want to become a better person too, right alongside you. So it's important to spend time on this in this period working on yourself so that you can be the best for your partner, and working on yourself so that you can inspire your partner. Okay? Both of those things are really important. Um, and one last tip that I have is this. And I've said this before a long time ago. I've said a lot of these before, but that's okay. One last tip that I have is you want to attempt to take someone on the journey. If someone is having a hard time with anything in life, let's say they're afraid of climbing, right? You can talk to them all day long about climbing. They're not going to want to do it more, generally speaking. Um, if they're afraid of heights or they're afraid of climbing, whatever it is, right? They're just not going to do it. But if you are not afraid of climbing, you can climb that rock wall. Let's say there's a rock wall, you go climb it, and they watch you and they're like, "Wow, I could never do that. That's scary," right? Right. But if you start rock climbing as a journey together with them, you invite them along for the journey,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's an important statement. Invite them along for the journey. This goes right in hand with self improvement for yourself so that you can be a good partner for them and inspire them. If you just try to throw them on the journey, if you try to tell them, okay, this is your journey through depression, this is it, blah, 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 blah. Oh,
Oh,
okay. That was weird. Okay.
you're still good.
Ah, okay. Okay. That was weird. My whole monitor's turned off and everything.
Whoa.
Okay. You can still hear me?
Yeah. And
All right,
see
cool.
you and everything.
You guys have no video, but that's all right.
Oh.
Actually, no audio either. Hold on, I fix. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll come
I
back to my
think
point
that's
in just
only
a
on your
second.
side.
Yeah, I think it's on your side
Because
because
on
everything.
the stream's still working, and I
Yep.
still see you.
And I don't know if Ryan. Oh
Oh,
man, look at all that.
All
That.
right.
Whoa.
All right.
Whoa.
That my whole monitor went black, and then now it's turned back on. So,
Can you hear
anyways,
us though?
yep, I can hear you. Can
All
you hear
right,
me?
good. Yeah.
Cool. So if you tell someone to go on a journey, they're generally not going to do it. And if you tell someone that there's a journey for them and you're going to do it with them, it implies that they need to take the steps for you to follow with them or walk besides them. You don't want to do either of those things with depression. When someone's depressed, again, they don't have that fuel, they don't have that fire to start walking any journey.
Mm-hmm.
So you take a journey yourself and you do it with them. You
Mm-hmm.
encourage them to follow you. So back to the example of climbing. Let's say you go, hey, honey, okay, I'm gonna climb this rock wall, but you start climbing a few steps and you just go, hey, could you pass me that rope? And you just lean down and you grab it from them and you're like, cool, thanks. And then you start climbing up a little bit and you're like, hey, could you throw me that iron? Throw me that iron. And then like maybe miss it a few times, who knows? And then they're like, oh, okay, just pass it to me. Just climb up that one rock and pass it. All right, thanks. All right, and then you climb up a little bit farther, and you're like, hey, you know what? This would be a lot easier. Let's make sure you're safe. Let's just strap you into this harness just in case. And they'd be like, okay, I'm not gonna climb. It's like it's fine, it's fine. I just want to make sure that you're safe. If you do, you
Mm-hmm.
strap them up. You climb up a few more steps, and you're like, hey, could you pass that to me? And eventually they might just climb a few steps, right? Um, and then you just leave it at that. You reward them with a few steps. And then next time, maybe they're gonna have the feeling to climb a few more steps with you, right? Or a few more steps, whatever. Rocks, right? Um, and doing that process, obviously that's an analogy, but doing that process seems to work at least a lot better in my experience. When you can latch onto someone and take them along for the journey, do things that are self-improvement for you, but involve them in that process.
Mm-hmm.
Do things that challenge yourself and involve them and rely on them. It could be even playing a game. It could be anything, but involve them in the journey that you're going on for self-improvement.
Mm-hmm.
Because someone who's depressed is going to have a lot easier time wanting for your improvement than they are wanting for their own.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who's going through depression is going to have a lot easier time attaching themselves to you and going along your journey for your benefit, not knowing that it's really for them,
Mm-hmm.
than they are going to respond positively to you trying to help them and that being the journey you're going on. And I hope that makes sense. Um, that can be, like I said, anything. It can be a car ride. It can be, traveling in a car to, the beach and being like, hey, I just want to go to the beach. You want to come with me?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and really it's for them, right? But that kind of stuff is big. It makes a big impact. Um, like getting out and doing things that are a little bit of a new experience, or at least an experience they haven't had in a while. Getting out and doing those things and under the premise of it's for you and it's fun and you're going to enjoy it and you want their support is going to be a lot different. Wanting their support is going to be huge because that gives them the feeling like they're needed and they are helping. And that for a depressed person is really generally a very important thing to feel. Feeling needed, right? You just said, they talk about their future and they have a hard time when the present's so hard. Well, a lot of that is partially on the fact that right now they don't feel needed, they don't feel important. So you can make them feel important by letting them know that you are relying on them. Don't just say, hey, I'm here for you, I'm here for you, I'm here for you. Do that, but don't just do that. Go the opposite way as well so you can pull them out of it, right? You can go, hey, I'm here for you, and go into a ditch and give them a big rope. But then you realize you're both in a ditch with a rope. It's like, that's not good. So when you say, I'm here for you, you also have to say, and I'm counting on you too, right? And so I need you to be here for me. It throws the rope in, and they can then grab onto it, and you can pull the other direction. You have to walk away from someone to pull them out, right? And I don't mean to say walk away in the sense of like, I'm not dealing with you anymore, but more so you have to actually move in a direction with them attached to pull them. And that direction isn't going to be you just saying, hey, I'm here for you. It's going to be you sort of leading the way and pulling them along. And that is you going, okay, I'm here for you, but you need to follow me. Therefore, you have to be here for me. So I need you. I need you right now. And you don't say this out loud, right? But you just have to give them that information of, I need you. I respect your opinion. I want your opinions on things. I I love to hear your thoughts, and it really inspires me. And I need your encouragement to continue on. I need your encouragement each day because it makes me do better. Right? You come with that attitude, giving your partner that role. They're probably already fulfilling that role, but letting them know that they're fulfilling that role is going to be super important so that they are attached to you, so that they have that, so that they're holding on to that rope while you're walking. Right? Okay. I hope that all of that makes sense. And I talked for quite a long time, I recognize, and I apologize. But I'm sure that it was well worth the time that I spent doing it.
Yes.
So, all right.
Yes.
I'm going to give it back over to you, Joe. And yeah, thank you so much for allowing us to talk on this, because it's important.
Yes, it is. And Ryan, I'm glad you went as long as you did. I'm glad that you had all the things you had to say, because it is a touchy subject, and what you were talking about, it goes it's so important that rather than giving advice to this person, to actually take their hand and go do it with them, or do something and invite them to come along. Whether it's a path of self-improvement in some way, or it's playing a game, or going for a walk, or going and eating, or whatever it is. I mean, those are things that if you can accompany them along the journey of doing these things, and not necessarily just digging in and talking about all the issues that they're struggling with, because that might be more the realm of a therapist. And it occurred to me also, maybe anonymous, maybe you're a therapist, but this is your partner. And because of the role, because of the relationship you have with your partner, then they may need a different person to be their therapist, because you're their partner. And so it's a different kind of relationship from the get-go. And so, to encourage them in the direction of seeking a professional is a very good thing. There are 4 things that that may help, and that are good things to keep track of. And since this is your partner, this is a close relationship, so you probably have the ability to ask about these kinds of things, to keep track of some of these with them or for them or whatever. And here are the 4 things. These all have to do with our physical well-being. Okay, what are they eating? Do they have some kind of a healthy eating regimen? Are they eating all junk food? Are they eating lots of sugar? If there's anxiety mixed in with the depression, then sugar is a good thing to try to limit to some degree, because that can charge us up. Like simple sugars can make us feel, can give us that anxiety, and then the crash, which then can drive us deeper. So just a well-balanced, healthy diet would be very, very good. How much water do they drink? And drinking water is one of those things. In America, we are very much a dehydrated nation overall. I mean, we as Americans do not drink enough water, pretty much. So So you can ask, or encourage them to drink more water. Another thing is sleep. How much sleep are they getting? You can ask about that, or you can, try and encourage them to sleep more or to go to bed earlier or to sleep later, whatever it is they can do to get a little bit more solid rest. Sometimes it's hard because I know in the midst of my depression at times, it's hard to sleep. It's hard to fall asleep. It's hard to stay asleep. Sometimes our minds give us, we get nightmares, and so then we can't stay asleep. It just wakes us up in the middle of the night, and then we can't go back to sleep. And so sometimes it's outside of our control. But the question is there a way to progress as an improvement in these areas? And the fourth thing is exercise. It doesn't have to be super strenuous, crazy workout. You don't have to go join a gym or anything. But like Ryan was talking about, you can do this with them. This is your partner, right? So you can go for a walk with them. You can just say, hey, I want to go for a walk. You want to come with me? Hey, let's go for a walk. What do you think? Because sometimes when we're depressed, we don't want to do anything. We don't feel like doing anything because nothing seems like there's any point to it. Like they said, in fact, they say it's only gotten worse and worse. They told me I keep trying to think about the future, but it seems so irrelevant when every day feels like it could be your last. And when you're in that mode of thinking, doing anything seems pointless. Like, why would I even try? Why would I even get up and do this? It's not going to matter anyway. All of these things can seem so pointless in the midst of depression. But if you can, just encourage them or go for a walk and bring them with you or invite them with you, even if they don't go, they have the invitation to invite them to dinner, to whatever. You can totally, hey, okay, media, man, I haven't seen you in a while. Sorry. Just want to give a shout out. But anyway, you can take them by the hand. You can do these things to help them in their physical well-being, and that physical well-being is going to improve their mental well-being. It's going to help improve depression. I remember a psychologist one time saying that if he could put exercise in a pill, then he could really, really make some headway with depression quickly. But exercise doesn't come in a pill. It comes in, you actually have to go do it. And like I said, it can be as simple as just taking a walk. And you can do that together. Take a walk together. You can go get some food together. Go to a decent, healthy restaurant or go whatever you're at. You can cook some healthy food. Whatever. You can encourage them to drink more water, help them sleep more. Those four things can really, really, help to, set a really good base for, what we do for supporting ourselves in depression. Those are the big four things my therapist asked me from the get-go. Was like, okay, how much you sleeping? I'm like, not very much. What are you eating? I don't know. It depends on what day it is. How much water are you drinking? I'm like, not hardly any at all. And how much you exercise? And I'm like, well, that one, I'm doing okay. I'm not too bad with exercise. But yes, I agree. I wish exercise came in a pill too.
Save me some time.
Yep, it certainly would. I've actually developed an exercise program now that only takes me about 7 to 8 minutes a day, and that and
That's
it's
stellar.
It's a fairly strenuous 7 to 8 minutes a day, but hey, I can do anything for 7 or 8 minutes, right? I mean, I might not want to. But really, I mean, we all, I don't know, 7 to 8 minutes, that's not that big of a deal. But anyway, those are some things you can help encourage your partner to do. Now, here's another thing. This is a very unique relationship that you have with this person. One of the things that, in your position, they need to feel that you love them, that they're valuable to you. It might take looking into what their love language might be and learning to speak their love language. There's the 5 love languages. There's words of affirmation, physical contact, quality time, acts of service, and giving gifts. One of those 5 is our primary love language. And if you can learn what theirs is, what kinds of things make them kind of perk up, what kinds of things make them feel good, what kinds of things do you see a response with? And I remember doing this and learning, when I was married, I had to actually experiment because it turned out that I was wrong about what her love language was. And then when I just started experimenting, I started to see noticeable differences when I started trying to speak these other love languages. And that can be really helpful as well. But again, to go back to the beginning of this whole thing, if they can, like, if this is severe and this has been going on for a long time and it seems like it's not getting better, I highly, highly recommend a professional. I highly recommend, them seeing a counselor or a psychologist or something. What if their love language is touch and you're in a long distance relationship with them? That can make things a little bit difficult. And there might be some input. I don't know. There's a book called The 5 Love Languages. There might be more there, and you might also have to rely on a secondary. Most of us have a primary and a secondary love language, and we can really, really make some headway with the secondary one as well. And I think the other ones can pretty well be done at a distance. But yeah, physical touch is a tough one to do in a long distance relationship. So I'm sorry, I don't have a super
I
good
mean, the
answer for
thing is
that.
you've gotta work with them and see what would make them feel like there's an equivalent. There's not an equivalent as being someone who is kind of a touchy love language. I love hugs.
Mm-hmm.
That's why often when I'm talking with someone that I'm close with, I will do like I will do something that makes it basically, I will use text in a specific way to be like, "Hugs," as in, "We are hugging," or, "I would like to hug you," or, and that sort of like that, or holding hand, or other sorts of things where maybe they can't physically touch, but they can imagine it. It can also help if you've never heard of squishmallows. Squishmallows are great touchy thingies. It's
Mm-hmm.
a gift, but they can feel like that. So, in that sense, you could be like hugs and they hug the squishmallow. So they have that kind of feeling of, oh, tactilely, I'm hugging something. And it's not the same as hugging a real person, but it's one of those things where you try to work with what you've got available to you. Um, and there's other things that might be like that for them, that can, those are just some of the things that I've discovered, but there's
Mm-hmm.
tons of different ideas of things and stuff that you can have tactilely to have that touch sensation, even if it's not perfect, because it can't
Mm-hmm.
be. If you're long distance, you can't physically be with that person.
Right.
But there are, other things. Some things are like bracelets that are like the clamp ones. Sometimes those can be like, again, that sensation of, oh, it's like a hug or it's like something holding me, or stuff like that. So that
Mm-hmm.
would be my small amount of suggestions of something you could do is try to find something tactile that they would appreciate,
Mm-hmm.
that they could use to kind of like in communications have that, even though it's not true to the full extent, but it's still better than just not at all having any respect for that love language there. I don't know. That's probably not the right word. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
that's all. That's all I got. Sorry for the interjection.
Gotcha. Oh no, thank you very much, Princess, because I was a little bit at a loss there. I think you probably saw it and jumped right in, so I really, really appreciate that. Um, but with regards to therapy, a therapist might be able to help them understand why this is happening, why they're in this depression, why they're in this funk, and they can help dig through the funk and get them, to understand why. And then when we understand why it's happening, then we can get tools to, to help ourselves get out of it. Um, in my particular case, there's a there it's manifold situation. There's been years of manipulation and psychological abuse and anger as a result, and so like there's this just mix of crazy that has to be worked through, and there's different tools for each one. And when someone understands this, and when a therapist can guide them through learning how to combat each one of those areas, it can be really, really, really helpful. And I'm telling you, you are in such an important position for this person. And I know you feel like you're at a loss. I know that it's hard. I know that there are so many questions when you're trying to support someone. And so I would encourage you also, Anonymous, to also see who you have as a support group for you. Because as you help someone through their depression, it can totally drain you. And it can make things hard, and it can make you start to feel like you're not doing things right. There's all kinds of stuff that might come into your head. And so I will tell you that you yourself having friends to talk to, just to support you, some people you can vent to, people you can, just lean on a little bit, is going to be very helpful for you. So you have the energy to help your partner through this time. And I've put my Discord out there before, and I'll do it again. Pleb6992. If you just need to vent, feel free. Type away. Type me a direct message. I'd be happy to read it. I'd be happy to respond. And and it may come to a point where you might also want to seek a therapist or whatever. But, really, truly, to have some support yourself is also going to be important as you travel down this road. So, I tell you, this is an important question, and I really, really appreciate you sending us this topic, because, man, at times people's lives are at stake, and like you said, they may not be suicidal now, doesn't mean they haven't had the idea, or that it might not progress in that direction. So yeah, it, in a way, sometimes in an important way, maybe people's lives are at stake in this. So anyway, thank you, Anonymous. I'm going to turn it back over to Ryan. Did you have anything else to say about this topic, Ryan?
Just a few things.
Mhm.
One, you absolutely everything you said is so spot on. And at the end, you mentioned how hard it can be being the support. And that can be very draining, and that is true. So make sure you take care of yourself. And yeah, some personalities it's a lot easier for than others to not get drained, but everyone gets drained. And in different ways. So figure out how to keep yourself healthy during this journey, so you can be a good pillar for your partner. One other thing is, on the note of the possibility, I was going to cover this anyways, but the topic accidentally went there, of the possibility of being an online relationship, because a lot of people that come to this show do have relationships that are online. And so I don't know if that's your circumstance or not, but if it is, I still urge you to do, maybe you can't go for walks. Maybe you can't, do things in person like that. But you can still invite them along for the journey on many things online. It can, there's all sorts of different activities online you can do with games or with watching something together, or, creating something together, right? Because the online experience allows us to share files and stuff like that. So if you wanted to create something with them, you could absolutely do that. And that might inspire them as well. that's a great journey to go along with. You say, hey, I want to do this project. I want to create this thing. Could you help me in this little part here? Doing things like that really encourages that feeling of them being needed, and also gives them that opportunity to do something and to put their mind to something that's good, to fill their mind with a good perspective towards the future, and to allow that relationship to bloom in that way.
Mm,
So I would highly recommend any sort of activity that involves a creation process or a progression with that person. Um, and so yeah, don't let the online factor be a um, something that gets in your way. Recognize that you're still completely capable of all of this, even if you're online. And yeah, that's all I wanted to add. So thank you guys.
absolutely.
And one last thing I'd like to, if you
Mhm,
don't mind. Um,
absolutely.
Video can also be very helpful,
Mm.
having, being able, if that's where your relationship's at, of course, doing videos. If you have the ability to like take pictures, go on a walk and be like, oh, here's a picture of like this over here, or sometimes you can even video call depending on if you have the ability to, do data, or if there's Wi-Fi nearby enough to wherever you're walking, or, you know, or even just hanging out. Like if you hang out, being on a video call where you can do silly faces or wink, or, all sorts of other nonverbal communication cues too. Those can be really, helpful to having that intimate connection
Mhm,
on a
Inclusivity
virtual
is really
basis.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah, you know. So
for sure.
mhm. Awesome, thank you. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say. And man, sounds
Yeah,
like that's
thank you so much for doing this for this
mhm,
person. That's
absolutely,
huge. That's so good.
absolutely. Thank you for being there for them. That's ah, I'm so impressed with you, Anonymous. Thank you for being who you are and for
Hmm.
doing that. So, and my best wishes. If you have any other things, any things that pop up and you want to ask, feel free to ask. On you can either go to don'tworrywednesday.com and submit a topic, or you can just message me directly. I'd be happy to, I, anything we can do to help you while you do this. We'd love to.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
so,
feel free to reach out to either of us.
mm-hmm. Yep.
if
So,
you need game suggestions on things to play together that you can't complete without having a second person playing, I've got a few
Mm.
of those.
Yeah,
They're
mm,
puzzle
sure.
games
mm,
though, so they'll have to be okay with puzzles.
There are
mm-hmm.
games that are not puzzles. You can do that too, though. So,
That's true. I'm just saying that I have quite a few of those.
oh yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Anonymous. Thank you so much for the topic. Thank you for submitting it. And, anyone else, like, I just wanted to also say, go to don'tworrywednesday.com. If you have a topic, you can click the submit a topic button there, and we'd be happy to do your topic. We're not professionals, but you know what? We want to be your friends, and we want to help in any way we can. So, with that, we can move on to our next topic. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this here, and we'll
That
see
won't
if
help
we
you.
have something coming up. And yeah, it's
That
going to
won't
be
help
good.
you
But
now.
I'll tell you what, though, man, that's a real struggle. I have such heartfelt feelings for people that,
Mm,
man, because that's tough.
yeah,
And I have been in so many
it is.
times when I've needed that help, and how important it is to have those people around me. Man, I'm just so thankful. So thankful. So anyway, all right. We have a new one from Blue Citrus. Oh boy, this
Oh,
is this is called A Crush and a Girlfriend. Oh,
ooh,
oh boy,
okay.
this sounds
Oh,
interesting.
this is
We're
getting
we're
saucy.
we're approaching the romance threshold here. Um,
Threshold. There is a threshold on romance.
yes, there
Once you
is.
cross it, it is officially romance.
Yep. This is called A Crush and a Girlfriend from Blue Citrus, and I will go ahead and put it up on the screen while Princess reads aloud. So, Princess, whenever you're ready.
Just gonna double check. Okay.
Ah, yes. Okay.
No, I just wanted to double check something. Anyway. A crush and a girlfriend. I have both. Maybe it's infatuation, but inside me, I wish it was not. She seems like a great bundle of joy and person overall. Perhaps it was looks, perhaps it was the way she assessed herself. But I can't stop looking at her when I get the chance. And I have no one to rant this to. Everyone knows me and my girlfriend, but not this one. She, on the other hand, is honestly not the best. But no one is the best. I feel like we won't work out in the long run. It just feels impossible. But contradicted on a lot of things, the lack of empathy, her seemingly lack of interest to me in life. I feel neglected, and she's working on that these days. I I honestly am so conflicted. I haven't yet gotten to know the girl out of respect to my current partner, but as these days and weeks go by, the thoughts dawn on me to pursue her instead. I feel like she's interested back, but not on the same level as I am to her. Or that's just my ego talking. Am I too selfish? A jerk? I won't lie. My pride has been building out like sore ego, or maybe it is ego. I don't have anyone else to talk to about this because the moment I do, it's as good as admitting to her that I like someone else. Help and thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, sticky situations.
Very sticky.
Man, oh man, I'll tell you what, Blue Citrus, that's a tough spot to be in when you're in a committed relationship and then you start to develop a crush for someone else. And yep, I've been there, and that's a hard place to be. And depending on the level of commitment that you have with your girlfriend, it can the difficulty can be on a sliding scale. So, but I know, you know what, you're not alone, Citrus, because I'll tell you what, married people don't, just because they get married, it doesn't mean they don't develop a crush on somebody. They don't, feel attracted to other people. It's just, hey, it's there. But the question is the level of commitment that you have for that other person and their dignity and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's okay to be in the position that you're in, right? So, but I understand, like, do I want to pursue this? Do I want to do that? I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. It's tough. And, no matter what happens, somebody's probably going to get hurt. But you know what? In life, somebody's going to get hurt anyway. It's one of the things I learned. We all kind of get hurt from time to time over different stuff. And I don't want to just sound heartless, but that's just kind of the truth, right? I mean, we get hurt and we hurt other people, and it's not like we intend to. Sometimes things just happen and our hearts go wherever they will, and then it takes some matter of discipline and trying to figure this out. And so, Citrus, I have to say, I admire you for talking about it, for reaching out. And, I'm glad that we're here, that you feel comfortable, that you can reach out in a way that, is discreet for you. And so you can work this out in your head before bringing it out to the table and, trying to tackle this issue, right? Because inside us, we all battle things.
Mm-hmm.
And we never know. There's a great song by Static P, Life Might Take Us. You never know where this life might take us.
Mm-hmm.
So I get excited when there's a change in plan, right? And sometimes we get ourselves too excited.
That's true.
And we never know where that path might go. That path might be a dead end. It might. We don't know. So anyway, I am going to hand this over to one of the most wisest people I know.
Good luck, princess.
And
No.
Yeah.
Not in this scenario.
And partly because, here's the thing, like, you know, I'm just fresh through a divorce. Romance is not my most comfortable topic to talk about, so I'm glad Ryan's here. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to him, and he's going to dazzle you. Absolutely dazzle you with how good he looks and what he says.
If you don't have a crush on me yet, prepare yourself.
Yes, absolutely. So Ryan, take it away, man.
All right. Yeah, honestly, this is relatable. This happened to me as well when I was in high school. I had dated this girl online, had a long-term relationship with her. It had been like a couple of years. Um, no, it had only been a year at that point. Had been a year at that point, and no, maybe 2. It doesn't matter. 1 or 2 years, doesn't matter. And there was a bunch of girls who liked me, and one of them I liked in return. I had a little small crush, and she was sort of turning into my friend at the time. And I recognized what it was, and it was just a feeling. It's just an experience of like, oh, I want to know more about this person. Oh, I like being around this person. And I want to be around them more, sort of thing. Like I like looking at this person. They're pretty, etc. And the thing is, I said, okay, I'm dating this girl online, and I'm going to stay true to my word. Even if I have feelings that go outside of just my feelings for that person. It's very normal, very common for people to experience crushes and so on outside of their one relationship that they have dedicated themselves to, put their word forward saying, this is my, I'm dating you and you alone. And during this time, it's only you, sort of thing. And for a marriage, that's very intense. But I recognized, I was like, okay, yeah, this is a pretty, it doesn't make me a monster. It's not because I chose this. It just happened to me emotionally.
Mhm.
And so what I did is I just let it pass and stayed true to my girlfriend. And I'll tell you, to this day, I never regretted that. I do believe wholeheartedly that if I ditched my girlfriend for this other girl, by the way, neither of them am I with now, right? Neither of them are in my life.
Mm.
And haven't been for many years now. But I've, because of my own dignity and because of the dignity of my girlfriend and my words to her and my promise, I can tell you that I would have regretted making that decision to say, hey, I'm going to go for this other girl now. And here's the thing. You said that you're not sure that this relationship you already have is going to last. You feel that that's true. At the time, I believed wholeheartedly that my relationship with this other girl was going to last, right? Because I wasn't going to give up on it. In the end, they give up on it, and that was fine. It is what it is. But the the matter is, you are in a situation where you feel like this other person, this girl rather, this girlfriend of yours, is not someone that you're going to be with forever. At least you're not certain that that's going to be the case based on what you said. So I'm curious if you should look more into that and think more on that. And not so that you can ditch her for this other girl.
Mm.
Don't ever make it for that reason. You'll regret that reasoning. That won't feel good to you. That will be undignified to both of you. It won't be treating both of you with dignity that you deserve. Or all three of you really, because it's a whole human person with a whole life and emotions and desires and everything. You should do your best to give your best, right? So it's important to to figure out why you feel like it might not be a lasting relationship, if if you consider that person and are in a state where it's like if you were to imagine holding them, right? And you're like, I don't know. It doesn't quite feel right. It doesn't feel like this is it. Then maybe it's not. Um, but here's the thing. You guys are dating. You guys are dating. You guys aren't marriage or in marriage, right? These are two very different things. And if you were married, I'd give you entirely different advice because you've made a vow before God, basically saying that, you're going to stick with it till life or till death do we part. As long as that vow is upheld by God, then geez, who are you to break it, right? That's kind of that's marriage, right? Now I recognize that a lot of people are no longer religious and they consider marriage simply a governmental contract, which in that case there's no God involved. Do whatever you want, I don't care. Honestly, that's my opinion on it. But
oh my,
I'm being honest. So, but if you're dating someone and you're not certain that they're the one, really think about that and figure that out. Because in the end, you're either going to make a commitment to say, you know what, I'm going to love this person regardless of what my emotions are. I'm going to love this person regardless of what I'm feeling. I'm going to love this person regardless of my attraction to her or other people. I'm going to love this person and be there for them for the rest of their life, regardless of whatever is going on in my brain. Because they are them. And that's what I will. And that's what I'm going to do. That's a whole lot different of a thing. If you make that sort of commitment, then that's the sort of commitment that you make. But if you look at this person, you say, that's not the kind of commitment I can make to this person. Well, then, I don't know, what are you doing dating them? Maybe that's where you were when you first started, or maybe you just started thinking, I really like being around this person. It feels good to be dating someone. It makes me feel good, and it makes them feel good, and we both like this, and I want to make them feel good. But marriage is even more than that. So if you're looking at this person and you're not sure, that's fine. That's okay. That's okay. But if you look at your crush, you don't know them yet. So don't just break up with this other person because you think it's your crush is the one. Your brain can play all sorts of kinds of mental tricks on you, and so it's good to identify why you believe what you believe about these people, and to get to know them better, and get to know yourself better in all of this, right? Because it's an important thing. It's so important. It's so important. You're not just dealing with your own life here. You're dealing with other people's lives too, right? And so it's super important to recognize like this person is not only good for me, I am actually good for them. I am good for them, and they are good for me, right? If that's what you have, then don't lose that just because you have weird feelings right now. Those feelings that you had for them before will return, very likely. Oftentimes, emotions come in waves, right? When you get angry, right? When you get angry about something and it's like a lingering anger that lasts like a week, how do you feel about that anger? Is it constant 100% all the time? No. It comes and goes in waves. And that's true especially for romance within relationships. It generally, you have huge emotional highs, and then it dips and you don't feel anything for a while, and then it comes back, right? And you end up riding this roller coaster in most romantic relationships where life is a roller coaster, and that's true of our emotions, and it's especially true in our relationships. In relationships, all of them have their ups and downs, their booms and their busts, their wax and wanes. So it's important to recognize that what you're going through right now might not be a tall tale sign for you saying, oh, maybe it shouldn't be. It might be just a test to your mettle. It might be something that you have to stick through because what you have is good and it will continue to be good so long as you give it your goodness. And that requires you staying in it and sticking with it. So I put all of those things on the table for you to digest because I can't make that decision for you. I can't help you more than that. Because I don't know you, I don't know your circumstance, I don't know everyone involved, and I don't know everything at all. And I barely know anything. But I hope that all of this makes you think about it and consider what it is you have, what it is you want, and and how to progress through this scenario. I would say one thing is it's okay to have a crush only because it was done to you and it's not your choice. I would say if you do have a crush, start to just and you say like, okay, I have a girlfriend. I shouldn't have a crush. Well, okay, that's a good statement. Okay, well then facilitate that. How do you facilitate not having a crush? Well, stop staring. First of all, stop staring.
Yeah.
Okay.
Find a different location.
Yeah, stop.
Don't entertain it.
Yeah, don't entertain the thought, essentially, yeah. Stop entertaining that thought and move on down the line. Go back to what was good for you in your prior relationship or in your current relationship. And I'll tell you that does wonders. The longer you entertain it, the harder it's going to be to get rid of it. Okay? So stop entertaining it now and you're going to do yourself a big favor. But yeah, that's what I've got. I hope that is helpful and it makes you think and solve some things and figure things out. But I'm gonna give her over to Joe and see what he's got to say.
You want to see what I have to say, huh?
Yeah.
Oh boy, I think you know all kinds of stuff.
And it's okay if you don't have something you want to say either. You know,
I've got all kinds of things I want to say.
Okay.
I don't know if all of them are appropriate. Princess, did you have some stuff you wanted to say? We can postpone the madness a little bit.
If you'd like me to, I can come up with something to say.
Well, it's okay. I mean, if you don't have anything ready, like now, if you're not, I can go. It's totally fine.
I mean, you guys know my whole story with anything related to relationships, which is almost on the 0 scale. So, you know, I don't really have any like experience to
lived
really speak
experience,
about.
yeah.
You know, I mean, the best thing that I can say is just, you know, don't entertain it if it's not something you want to pursue. I saw in the chat, I can't remember who now, but had mentioned it might be worth like if you're noticing that your current relationship with your girlfriend isn't good and maybe that's why your mind is wandering, it might be worth like having a chat with your girlfriend of, "Hey, you know, I've been feeling kind of this way about our relationship. You know, where are you at? What are you feeling? You know, is there a way to bridge, you know, the gap that maybe you're feeling?" In the relationship. Maybe it means that, hey, something is up with your relationship that either needs to be fixed, resolved, or moved on from, you know? I don't
That's a good
know, you
advice.
know? And I guess the other thing I can come up with is you mentioned she seems like a great bundle of joy and person overall, you know? There's nothing wrong, again, with enjoying the people around you, as in, like, again, you understand that this is a crush, and in that sense, it's like, you know, you don't wanna have that romantic aspect, but it is not wrong to enjoy other people or to see other people is great and amazing and all that, you know? Seeing, like, that and being like, "Oh, man, you know, I kind of wanna be like them because they're really cool and they've got really great attitude and all that," you know? it's totally okay to recognize those things in other people too and be like, that really inspires me. But again, I know that that is also a different frame of thought than, hey, I kind of like this person. And it might be part of the process of changing it is like, hey, instead of being like, ooh, I like this person, ooh, I really appreciate this person's attitude, the way they act, I really appreciate the way that they assert themselves or, and trying to pull it away from being romantic into I appreciate these qualities and looking at it through a lens of trying to think of it as friendship. I know it's not necessarily that you've become their friend or anything, but just seeing it through that lens of somebody you would admire in a way that's like, oh, I look up to them as like a role model in this particular aspect or something. I don't know if that would really be helpful in practice. It's just a thought, a theory, something you could try. If it doesn't help, take it with a grain of princess.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'll toss it back to Joe.
Mm.
I require 1 grain of princess from you.
I require
Please ship in the
multiple
mail.
grains of princess, please. Can I have a few grains?
A few grains.
You say it's a princess for the poor.
Yes. That's perfect. Thank you, princess. Thank you for
I'm gonna make princess grits.
Oh my gosh.
I do love grits though.
Grits
I know
are
you do. It's
fantastic.
because it's buttery.
Grits
Butter.
and butter. Anyway, sorry.
All right.
Me too. You guys are great. Okay, here's the thing. Feelings are funny. Relationships are funny. Ryan talked about marriage. I talked about being divorced. So in a way, for part of Ryan's talk, I feel like he's calling me out, right? Like, hey man, lifelong commitment.
No, I wasn't.
Da, da,
Because
da,
that
da, da.
relationship wasn't good for each other, and it's definitely not. Okay, anyways,
I know.
Shut your mouth.
I just want to say this.
You're going to get an annulment. It's fine.
Yes, the only, because I felt that way. I was absolutely committed. I had heard a person say, the secret to marriage is not love, is not being in love, because feelings come and go, man. You fall in love, you have a crush on someone, those feelings well up and they go crazy, and then they come and then they go and then they wane and whatever. And then you live with somebody or you marry somebody and you don't even necessarily have to live with them to be married to them, I found out. And, there's all kinds of stuff, but it's crazy. So the only thing that made me finally comfortable with divorce was when a priest looked at the whole situation and he's like, yeah, there's no way that this marriage is valid. There's no way that this marriage is even real. Like, you may have thought you were getting married, but all these circumstances, they point to this marriage not being an actual marriage. And so that then was the impetus to say, okay, so if it's not real, then why are we kidding ourselves, right? Anyway, that's that. I wanted to touch on the marriage thing. Now on to feelings. I'm going to, I don't know, Blue Citrus, if you're religious or not. I'm going to quote the first verse of the 23rd Psalm. I'm going to use a specific translation. I don't know what translation it is, but I've heard it before. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. I'm going to let that sink in for a second. Because when I read that, when I read that, it's like, oh, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall get everything I want, so I won't feel want. No. That's not what that means, right? Here's the thing. A crush, in a way, is a want. Sometimes a relationship is a want. There's a want involved when we want someone. And in that, there's a possessive kind of nature. Like, I want to possess this person at some level. Like, I'm not talking about The Exorcist, like being possessed.
Oh,
right?
Oh, wow. I thought you were going to say something about slavery, but you went that direction. Possession. That's great.
But here's the thing. Like, anytime I have a desire, I always have to check myself. Because it's like, why? I've been down the road of relationships. I've seen this same type of situation, been involved in this type of situation, been in the position of your girlfriend, where the person that I was dating in a very serious relationship for multiple years, very serious relationship, talked about marriage, talked about all this kind of stuff, right? Then we hit some rocky patches. We kind of got into this phase where we were kind of breaking up and getting back together a bunch, right? You kind of know that the writing's on the wall in a relationship, like in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, when that starts happening. I'll just say that. But in the midst of somewhere, she developed a crush on one of my friends. They're now married. And they have kids. They're beautiful kids. I don't have any contact with these people anymore. I don't have any contact with this ex-girlfriend or this former friend. But it was crazy. I ran into them because their kids took swimming lessons at the same place my kids took swimming lessons. And they were in the pool at the same time, taking the same swimming lessons. So it got weird, right? But here's the thing. They pursued that. Like, so right after, I remember this, we broke up right around Christmas, New Year time, whatever. And then immediately she's with this other guy. Immediately. And I'm like, whoa. That's pretty wild. But what happened was that turned into a relationship that ended up being committed, being a marriage, being something that succeeded in that realm, right? So I'm not going to say it's impossible for you to pursue your crush and have it work out, because it might, or it might not. And how you're doing with your girlfriend, I mean, whatever your commitment level is there, I don't know how serious you are. I don't know how long you've been together. I don't know the ins and the outs of all that stuff. So I can't really advise you either way on any of this. But what I can do is advise you to look at your heart. Look at your heart and think to yourself, is this a person that I just want? And if that's the case, check that. Because a relationship is more than two people wanting each other and allowing the other person to possess the other one, right? It's not a mutual, I have you, you have me kind of thing. When we're talking about a serious relationship, when we're talking about going towards romance, we're talking about giving ourselves as a gift to this other person. Not getting that person. This is all like our mentality, rather than thinking in terms of, I want this person, so I want to have them. And I remember listening to a song. My kids were really little. There was this Michael Jackson song that had this intro where Michael Jackson was talking with Chris Tucker, and they were going back and forth. Oh, I'm going to get that girl. You see that girl? I'm going to get that girl. I'm going to get that. You can't get that girl. I'm going to get that girl. You watch me get that girl. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, I was just appalled. And it was a teachable moment for my kids. Because they're like, isn't that great, Dad? Isn't that funny? I'm like, yeah, but not really. Because a girl isn't a thing to have. That's a person. That's a person. It's not an object. It's a person with dreams, with hopes, with feelings, with all the same components that you have, that I have. We're a composite being of mind, body, spirit, all these things put together. And to say I'm going to get them, that cheapens our mentality of that person. And so the question I want you to ask yourself is, you can ask the same question about you and your girlfriend as well. Do you look at your girlfriend and love her in the sense that you want to give yourself as a gift to her? Or do you love her because you want her to be a part of your life? This gets complicated and the line gets fuzzy sometimes, right? But the question I want to ask you is, where's your heart? Because if we want a person the same way as we want some kind of an object, we're looking at it all wrong. All wrong. And crushes generally start off that way. We see somebody, they give us these little feelings. We get this little dopamine, adrenaline rush, and it's all cutesy pootsy and whatever, you know. And then in the early days of the relationship, we're they're so fantastic and lovey-dovey and wonderful. And I'm just so happy, clappy, and this is great and everything. And I can't trust a word you're saying when you're in that state of mind, because I know where you're at because I was there. You know, we don't think right.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think right now because of where I'm at. You guys are experiencing this firsthand, and I apologize. But you know what? You put a romance topic on here. And I'm
this is
sorry.
why you're here, Joe.
What's that?
This is why you're here. You've got really important and great things to say, and you'd only say them from your perspective, and everyone needs to hear them. So thank you.
Dude,
you're being
Seriously,
so
you're doing
hard.
great.
You're doing great.
Man,
Really?
people aren't things. People are people. And it's natural to have a crush. It's natural. And that's how things start. And it's okay. It's the natural progression of a romantic relationship to start and see somebody and to get those feelings and to be like, oh yeah, this is cool. You know, I'd really like to pursue this, but it's a person. Eventually you get to that point where it's like, oh, I want to give myself to this. I want to give myself as a gift to this person. Rather than wanting them, it's instead wanting to make yourself a gift to present to them. And man, I don't know. I've fallen in love and out of love many times. I'm old, right? Still 29.
29?
I've been 29 for a long time. Multiple years that I've been 29. Great. In fact, I've started saying I've been 29 since I was born. And in fact, I got this great idea from a gal at a gas station. She's like, oh, I started going backwards. So I'm like, perfect. Next year, my next birthday, excuse me, I'm 28. And pretty soon I'll be back to childhood again. It'll be great, right?
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, relationships are weird. Feelings are weird. We get pulled in all kinds of directions. We get pulled with all kinds of desires and all kinds of different stuff. And we have to really keep in mind, you know, okay, I want this thing. I want this person. It can be a person or a thing, right? How much do I want it? Is this a healthy desire for me? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe it is. Maybe it could turn out to be a really cool thing. Maybe it could turn out to be great. Maybe it could turn out to be, you know, a time in your life where you're dating, like with your girlfriend. Maybe this is a temporary experience. Something that you're going to learn from that's going to build you through this experience. This crush may be the same thing. Who knows? Who knows where all of this is going to go? You get to choose what you do. But underneath it all, I want to really encourage you. Don't forget about this person being a person. Your girlfriend and your crush, both, they're people. So as you have this desire, as you navigate these feelings, as you go through this rigmarole of romantic stuff, that's a person. And they have feelings, and they have a heart. And they have desires too. And you know what? In some ways, they're broken. Because all of us are. Some of us are more broken than others at different times in our lives, depending on what we've experienced. Man, don't go down the road of treating a person as an object. Don't go down that road. Because what happens is we mistreat people. We hurt them, and then we end up hurt as well. Because our perspective is all wrong. So anyway, I can't advise you either way. I can't advise you what to do. I don't know the specifics of your situation. And even if I did, like I say, there's a path either way. You can take either path, see where it goes. Why not? It's kind of like Ryan said, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, man, just whatever you decide to do, don't forget about that they are a person. And they're worth more than just you wanting them as a thing. That makes sense. Am I freaking people out?
Nah, that makes sense. I think everyone's
don't
on
know.
board.
If I'm freaking people out, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I love you guys.
Nah.
Doing
I
great.
mean, you're the only thing you could probably be charged on would be repetitiveness, but I don't think that's the problem.
Well, I want to drill that home. It's a
Mm-hmm.
person, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So don't forget that. Anyway. Sorry. I ranted and I raved, and I'm going to turn it back to Ryan or Princess.
Nah, man.
Whoever wants to take it, please
Everything
save
you
us.
said was great, important. I just have a few things. Princess, did you have something you wanted to say? Okay. Just Joe mentioned it, so I didn't want to interrupt in case he did. So I just want to say just a few things, really. And really just one thing. And that's this. I don't know if you're religious or not. But in the case that you are, one thing you could do is pray about it and see where your heart and where God leads you. But recognize sometimes in life, there isn't a necessarily right path and a wrong path. Sometimes in life, there are options, and they're both just different paths. And God waits to see which one you pick because he's learning who you are in a way, even though he already knows, but it's you actually learning who you are in that case. And sometimes it's okay to pick and recognize later, yeah, maybe I should have done something differently, because that's important too. It's important to do that because it helps you learn. So recognize, again, just what Joe said. We can't tell you what to pick. We can't tell you what to do, but make sure your heart is in the right place when you decide what to do. If you decide that you're going to break off your relationship, don't make it because you have a crush on another person. If you decide to stick with your relationship, awesome. Make sure it is on the right foot. And if you decide you want to be with this other person, that's okay too. But I would recommend really thinking it over. And I think that that's something you definitely can do. and I think that you will do it. If you want to give us updates at any time, send us a message. I'm curious of what you're gonna pick, because I understand the situation. I've been in a situation like this once before, and I picked what I picked, and I never regretted it. Even though I never ended up with that person, either of them, I'm still glad about the path I took, because it taught me so much. By continuing that relationship that I already had, I learned, and it continued on for like 3-4 more years after that, right? So no, sorry, 2 or 3 more years after that. So anyways, I learned so much in that time, and I learned so much when the breakup happened too. So, and it was all very important to understanding who and what I am today, and yeah, it's very good. So regardless of whatever path you take, think about it and learn from it. And don't worry about whether something worked out or didn't work out. Because in the end, all you could do is pick between choices. You aren't the fate maker. None of us are. No one is. So all we can do is try. And so I wish you the very best, regardless of whatever you choose. I wish you the very, very best. But yeah. But just know that, hey, these are just feelings, and it's okay. They happen. But yeah. Cool. Thank you so much for your topic.
Thank you. And sorry if I got a little hard on you. I didn't mean to. But you hey, I could have been like normal Joe. I have the answer to any romantic question. Stop it.
Stop it right now. No. Danger zone. Get out. Get out. Mayday.
Yeah, but I recognize, hey, you know what? Romance is a thing. It's there. It serves a purpose, and it draws us closer together, in a lot of ways. And so hey, but here's the thing about it too. It hurts.
Yep.
Even, you know what? Here's the thing. Even if you get married and you have that happily ever after sunset wedding, right? Here's the thing. Eventually, somebody dies. They say till death do us part, right? Somebody dies. And if that's a person that you were that close to and had that great sunset, ride off into the sunset relationship with, I've seen people absolutely devastated.
Yeah.
Even when they're old. When we love people, it hurts. We love people so much that it hurts. But we talked about that last week when we talked about the depth of love and how love brings us to our highest heights and our deepest depths. We have our greatest elation and our deepest pain, because love is that powerful of a thing. And it's all on account of love. So when you go through this, this high heights of love, and it feels good, relish in it. When you're in that deep pain and it hurts so bad, relish in it. Experience it. Let it wash over you. Because those moments deepen us as a person. They deepen our heart. They deepen our compassion. They deepen everything about us.
Absolutely true.
Whether it's the elation or the pain, either one. It just, And when you're in it, let yourself be in it. And I'm talking to myself too. And maybe get a therapist.
Yes. Joe, that was beautiful. That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
Absolutely true.
Well, hopefully it's helpful. And Blue Citrus, I wish you the best. And if you have any other further things you want to discuss, feel free. If you want to remain anonymous, you can do that too. Like if you want to talk about this and be totally anonymous, we can totally do that too. If you want to reach out on Discord, you can DM me. I will keep all of everything in confidence as well. So anyway, Yep. So yeah, so I think we have time to do one more.
Cool. Yeah, we do. I mean, yeah, we got 10
We can do
minutes.
one more. What do you think? Princess,
Yeah.
you good to do one more?
I'm good to do one more, but just so you know, 10 minutes is not enough time for a topic on the show.
Do we have only
Yeah,
10
Unless
minutes
we have
left?
Kyle on the show. Just putting that out there.
Well, I'll
Kyle
just
on the show.
I will channel my inner Kyle. I've been hanging out with him a lot, so I'll just be Kyle.
Okay, that works.
How's that?
I'll channel my inner
It's
Kyle
look, I
because
don't mind going
I had to grow
over.
up
I'm
with
just
him.
saying that, you know.
Yeah, we can go
That's
over a
enough
few minutes.
time.
We were a few minutes late. So, that's okay.
True, we were.
Mhm. So, yeah, we can do another one.
Yeah, and it's nice to be here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It is. And I want to talk about something besides romance.
You did a great job on that topic, Joe. You really did. I don't think
Princess
anyone
is like, I've got a romance one queued up.
No, this next one is
I don't
not
know.
that.
It's not? Okay.
No.
All right. All right. This is an anonymous one also. And let's see. Let me pull it up here. This is called A Little Voice in My Head. Oh. I have multiple little voices in my head from time to time.
An army of little voices.
An army of little voices. Fantastic. So anyway, I'm going to put it up on the screen so Princess can read it aloud. Just give me one quick second. There we go. Okay, Princess, it's all you.
Recently, I mentioned a little voice that I have in my head to my friends from school. One person asked me to elaborate, asking about it. For me, the voice is separate from my own. It's usually quiet and just pipes up whenever, usually to make jokes. I further explained this voice to my friend and said that I may be a system. I don't have a diagnosis, of course, but after them explaining it all, it may be very possible that I am a system. I only really hear this one voice. It usually gives off a more masculine / gender neutral vibes. I end up saying things without actually thinking about it at all. Most of the time, I'm always the one in control. I imagine the voice in my head as just a person leaning back in their chair with their legs up on the desk, just talking whenever they have something to say, but staying quiet most of the time. They said I have CPTSD and that I most likely have PDID, which is dissociative identity disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Just to clarify, also CPTSD is complex PTSD or post traumatic stress disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Just for those that don't know the acronyms.
Okay.
Which is when the system rarely switches hosts, just a voice. The last time it would have taken over was in middle school, and now I'm in my junior year of high school. What do you guys think about this? Do you have any information that could help me? By the way, the voice has been given the name of Alistair. He's usually calm, but also kind of chaotic, and tends to come out most when I'm talking to close friends. From Anonymous.
Anonymous. This is pretty interesting. I can say right off the bat. I don't know if we're going to cover it in 10 minutes. Even with channeling my inner Kyle, Kyle might have more to say about this than would take 10 minutes. What do you think, Ryan? Do you think he would have more?
Oh gosh.
I feel like a question would be the first thing out of his mouth.
Yeah, I bet
Yeah.
you're probably right.
Yeah, probably. My brain is going like 99 because I used to have a friend who a long time ago, this is many years ago now, I used to have a friend who went by the name of Alistair, and they had a very similar symptom or situation. And I'm like, could this anonymous person be that person? Because that person told me their screen name, Alistair, was not was not their real name, but the name that they named their voice in their head. I can't imagine it's the same person. And if it is the same person, you should reach out to me. I've been talking to you forever. But if it's not, cool. But anyhow, sorry. Obviously, this is from an anonymous person. So I don't want to call out anybody. But anyhow, I don't think that is this person. Because it wouldn't make sense. But anyhow, it's just an interesting thing that my brain was doing. I was like, "Wow, that's so coincidental." Um, but anyhow.
Yeah. That's all yours, man. I already put you on screen.
Oh, great. Um, great, great.
Did you
No,
want me to
actually, I
put it
know this
back?
person isn't this person. But anyhow,
Do you want me to put it back? Do you want me to Are you
yeah, if
ready
you
or
want,
no?
you want to say more, go for it.
I don't know. I was happy to hand it off to you, to be honest.
Oh, okay. All right, well, I'll go for
Well,
it.
I will say this, Anonymous, I also have, you know, maybe not this to the same level, but I do definitely have multiple narratives that go on in my head. Some more along a good path, some more along a not so good path, and I have to check myself, and I have to check when different personalities of mine might feel like they're coming out, right?
Mhm.
So I can relate somewhat to your struggle. I've never been diagnosed with either of those conditions, whether it's CP, post traumatic stress disorder, or PDID, which was what again, Princess? Degenerative identity something? You're muted. Sorry.
It's partial dissociative identity disorder.
Dis-
I apologize.
dissociative. Okay, dissociative. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So in some way, shape, or form, Anonymous, if this has been something that's a possibility, I would definitely probably encourage you to reach out to a therapist, and probably not a counselor. In this case, I would say a psychologist or a psychiatrist. That one of those levels. Now, I would encourage probably more a psychologist, because a psychiatrist is a lot of times a psychiatrist might just see things from a chemical standpoint and prescribe medication,
Right.
because
That's
that's
their expertise.
kind of their angle, right? So, but if you start with a psychologist, the ladder kind of goes counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist, in my mind, because we're gonna root out all kinds of mental things and get to if it's a possible chemical issue that needs medication, then that's where a psychiatrist is going to come into play, right? But if you talk to a psychologist, they're going to have a little bit more experience in diagnosing these specific conditions than just a licensed public counselor. Okay. um so with that caveat, now I will hand it over to Ryan and see what he has to say. So, Ryan,
Sure.
have at
I'm
it,
gonna
man.
go come right out the gate and say I
Mm-hmm.
don't have too much information or study in this field. I did take, well, yeah, no, I honestly I don't have enough. I took very little in college, as far as psychology goes, and so I haven't gone up this rung of how all of these types of things work. I will say that you have to keep in mind that we are very influenced by our current culture in being diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the culture we live in is not necessarily just like a self-diagnosed culture, but a culture that desires to be diagnosed.
Mm.
So, we all notice things that are not perfect about us. And we live in this age where everybody knows this and everyone has a named diagnosis for themselves, because that is for some reason kind of cool in our culture. That's honorified, exonorified, whatever. You know
Mm.
what I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about.
Yes.
Um, and so sometimes it's more important to, rather than figuring out if what you have is wrong or is some kind of mental condition, figuring out if it's not and it's just normal and you can go through it, um, or it's not something that needs to be addressed. And the reason I say that is because I've known a couple of friends in my lifetime that were diagnosed with they were actually medically diagnosed by a doctor, not medically, but they were diagnosed by a doctor with oh geez, what's that called? Multi-personality disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And they believed it. And they were diagnosed it. They thought they had it. They went to the doctor. They got confirmed that they had it. And they went for one of them 5 years, the other one like 10 plus years, believing this and acting a very specific way because of it. After that many years, eventually they sort of had a breakdown and recognized that they didn't have multi-personality disorder. And they were diagnosed wrong. And they had been living out they had been living out the symptoms and creating a habit in their brain that made it so that this is what they had. Because they programmed their brain to have an issue. And after many years, they recognized that it was sort of influenced into them. And what they had was something different. They started to fix themselves. They went back for a diagnosis, and they got re-diagnosed with either, I think one of them got re-diagnosed with something else. It wasn't multi-personality disorder. It was a different disorder altogether. And the other one got re-diagnosed with nothing. They said, you're clear, you have no mental disorders. And so it's really important that whatever we placebo effect, this sort of thing. It's really important that we make good with what we have. It's more important to make good with what you have than it is to understand what you're diagnosed with. Because you can learn you have something, or be told you have something, or be told by a friend that, hey, this is a thing that's similar, and that's what you think you are, and you ride that train out, and you start to act that way. That's what happened with both of the cases I just referred to. Both of them were introduced to the idea. One of them, their mother had it, and the other one, their friends talked about it at school, and that's how they got introduced to the idea, And so then they said, oh, maybe that's what I have, because I do this, and this other thing that all is what you just talked about. And it led them down that road, right? And what I mean in that is they took it and used it as an excuse to act a certain way, and they were only acting that way because they thought they had this thing, right? And they fooled everybody. They fooled themselves, they fooled all the doctors, they fooled everybody. No one could tell the difference because they had manifested something in their head. Now, all of that said, am I trying to say that this is you, Anonymous? No, I'm not. My point of saying this is to recognize that if you have voices in your head and they're saying things, right? And they're just saying like little jokes here and there, and they're not really disrupting you. They aren't necessarily something bad. And so when you are going through this process of diagnosis, don't limit yourself with diagnosis is basically what I'm trying to say. Don't limit yourself. There are many people in the world who like I just referred to, they believe they had something. And because they believed they had that, they never tried to get over it or tried to use it for good. They used it as an excuse to be bad and get away with it.
Or at least justify it in some way.
Right, justify their behavior. And they later recognized that they were out of control. They started to control themselves, and it was a lot of regret there, right? Because yeah. So my point is, if you think you have something, don't limit to yourself to say, this is what I have and I have this forever, and this is just who I am, and it gives me a reason to act up. And when I act up, it's because of this. Don't limit yourself to your diagnosis. You are much more than your mental problem. And so if you do have something like this, because I don't know much about the field, but I can say these things, right? And if you do have something, if you do have, obviously PTSD or CPTSD and PDID, you have these, well, it's possible. And so that's okay. But don't let them be an excuse that prevents you from being the best you. Don't let them limit you and say, oh, I can't do these types of things because I have these problems, or I can't, I can't get better, or I can't help these things. Usually when you do have a problem, you can work with it. And if you have like PTSD, right? There's a lot of people in the world who have PTSD, and you're allowed to have it. But people who have PTSD, you can either let it run you, or you can try to manage it. And managing it is a way better, right? Managing your PTSD is way, 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 way better than not, right? Than saying, oh, I don't have control over it, and so therefore this is my life, and this is what I have, and you all have to deal with me because this is the way I am because of my PTSD, right? People, I said this recently to a couple of people, but there was a comedian on stage who was talking about his current generation, the millennials, and how they're all really good at self-diagnosing, and they're like, hey, hey, it's nice to meet you. Yeah, nice to meet you too. It's blah, blah, blah. You get into a conversation. They're like, yeah, and I have anxiety problems. And then the guy in the comedian responds, oh, anxiety problems. What are you doing about them? And then the response is, oh, nothing. I just want to let you know so you can avoid it. And that's the culture. That is our culture. That is the culture. It has been for the last like 30, 40 years. Okay. So I want to help you avoid that culture. Don't just say, don't be that person who says, I have anxiety and I'm telling you because you need to avoid it for me, or else you suffer the consequences. Right? I don't want you to fall into that trap, because that's how a lot of our culture is acting. It's cool when you get to one-up someone with your problem being worse than another's. It's not cool.
No, it's not cool.
Yeah, but
Sorry.
people like to do it. Be like, oh, you have this? Well, guess what I have? I've got all of these things I'm working with. Don't glorify it. Recognize that it's a thing and you can work with it, but don't make it your master. Right? That's all. That's the end line I'm going to say. It's the best way to say it. Don't make it your master. You try to master it, and it's going to be with you, but you master it. Right? And especially if it's a small little voice in your head, don't let it be your master. You master it, because that's where you have control, and it's going to turn out to be the best version of yourself. Right? When you have control over where you're going, what you're saying, you have far better chances of being a better person than if you give up control. Right? So that's what I end with. I'm going to give it over to Joe.
What? Just like that?
Yeah.
Perfect. Anonymous, thank you so much for the topic. And Ryan,
I'm going to give you over to someone who has intelligence and wisdom, and they
Princess. Yep, she's smiling even. Look at that. Ta-da.
You said I just decided to do that because you said that, like, I just moved it over to you real quick. I was like, oh, he wanted me to give him a little time.
Oh, no. That's totally fine. I don't mind. Anyway, no, thank you, Ryan. Anonymous, I am with Ryan. And here's the thing. I've heard lots and lots of things in my head, and heard lots of things telling me things what to do, telling me how to act, telling me, even premonitions about where things were going to go. Sometimes I feel like maybe this is the voice of God, maybe this is some kind of evil spirit voice. Maybe this is some kind whatever, right? Like maybe or maybe it's just me talking to myself in a weird way. Maybe I'm just messed up and I need help, who knows? Like so there are lots and lots of possibilities here, right? And it's fine. Like this is part of the normal human experience, I think. We get, it can now sometimes it's actually we can hear it. A voice telling us. Da, da, da. It's almost like we can hear it even though nothing was said, right? But like in our head it's like, "Oh my gosh, like I hear this voice," right? And I think long and hard before I assign the voice to anything other than just my thinking. I go through a long discernment process, right? It's like, okay, da 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 da. Could this be something outside of me? Or is this all just in my head? Because we do this. Our brains are incredible. Incredible. And they do all kinds of things. Like you hear about people with premonitions. You hear about all kinds of different things. Telepathy. You hear about there's just crazy powers that are somewhat supernatural. Some of them are supernatural that are out there, and our brains experience so much. Like they say, we only use like 10% of our brain, right? If that. And a lot of these things, we can take our experiences and all these things kind of get crammed into our subconscious. And every once in a while, something comes out. And so it could be just us. It could be part of us. And I really love where Ryan was going with this because we do live in a, we live in a diagnosing culture. And in many ways, it's a self-diagnosing culture, right? A lot of people, we self-diagnose. Now, I did not diagnose myself with depression and anxiety. I went to a professional and got that diagnosis based on, what they did and based on the tests they gave me and all this kind of stuff, right? And but when I first started seeing my therapist, I didn't think, "Oh, I'm depressed. I need to see a therapist." I thought to myself, "Okay, my brain is messing with my life. I am not able to function properly. So I need to talk to somebody and figure out what this is." And then halfway into the inventories, it was really depressing because she's asking me all these questions about, this is the depression inventory. She's asking me, how often do you feel this way? How often do you think this way? How often do you think like this? How often do you think like this? And I'm just like, okay, every day. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really, oh crud. And she's like, yeah, you got it. I'm like, doggone it. But she's the type of therapist, though. There are therapists out there that are kind of enablers. And in a way, they almost want you to stay being a client. And so they'll, not try to make you better, not try to help you get better. This gal is not the case. Like, she's had colleagues that say, if you don't want to get better, don't go see her. Because because that's her goal. Like, she's not going to, try and, she's going to listen. She's going to hear you out. She's going to counsel you and all this kind of stuff. But she's going to give you concrete things to do, and she's going to hold you accountable. And so I like that. Because then that's a pathway toward healing, right? So if you're anonymous, if you have these things that are diagnosed by a therapist or a doctor, there's some extra added weight to give to that, right? But like Ryan said, he had friends that, they were diagnosed by doctors and then turned out that the diagnoses were wrong. So that can happen too. We're all human. And Ash, I see you in the chat. All of us are messed up. Yep, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
All of us are messed up in some way.
We got different brains we're working with. All of us.
Yep. And our brains are complex and enormous and beautiful. Beautiful. And all these things that we experience are so complex, and they can be so rich in these experiences. But I see you say you are now a junior in high school. So here's the thing, Anonymous. As a junior in high school, your brain is still developing. My therapist said, our brains don't really fully develop until we're like 25 or maybe even 30. And even then, we can still expand our brains. We can still learn. We can still grow. We can still do all these kinds of things. But we do our sense of self, our sense of identity, our sense of our mental state, whatever, like our development in that way. I mean, we're still figuring this out, right? Until we're like 25, 30. And that's okay. We're all on a journey. But I love what Ryan said. If the voice in your head, if it's not messing with you, then hey, there's not really harm in it. But it does help, like he said, to maintain some sense of control. Okay? So I'm going to encourage you to do just what Ryan said. As when you hear the voice, okay, great. Listen, chuckle, listen to it. Maybe it's giving you some valuable information. Maybe it's conscience. Sometimes when we're faced with something, we get this voice in our head like, stop. It might be conscience. Or we get this voice in our head that says, go after it, man. And that might be the anti-conscience.
Yeah.
Right? So part of this is just discerning. But hey, if it's not causing you a whole lot of trouble, then don't worry about it. And if it is, even then, recognize, Anonymous, that you do have control. You have some control to choose. Many times we're compelled. We could be compelled by desire, addiction, all kinds of things. There could be any number of things that compel us to act a certain way, or to act out a certain way, or to do a certain thing. Or, when we're around a certain group of friends, like you were saying, tends to come out most when I'm talking to close friends. Maybe that's part of who you are, like when you're around your friends. Maybe that's a little bit of insight into the complex, beautiful being that you are. But understand, the thing that separates humans from animals is choice. We are not just instinctual creatures. We get to choose. Sometimes our choices are diminished by, like I said, desire, compulsion, addiction, whatever it might be. Sometimes we're compelled to act a certain way. But we do have the choice. So I'm not going to be like I hear so many parents nowadays, make good choices. I'm not going to say that.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm going to say is, Anonymous, recognize that you do have the power to choose. You have the power to choose what to do with this voice. You can let it out. And it could be fun. It could be great, It could be a side of your personality that comes out and it has a great, enjoyable time. But you do have the choice to listen to it or not, to feed it or not. And maybe if you have not talked to a therapist about it, it might be good to do just to kind of get a handle on it. Like we said at the beginning, we say all throughout the show, we're not professionals. We're just friends. We just want to help. And sometimes the most helpful thing we can do is direct you to a professional and point you in the direction of that, because then there might be something more to consider in this equation. But I want to tell you, Anonymous, it doesn't change how valuable you are, how beautiful you are, how much of an incredible creation you are. It doesn't put a black mark on who you are. It doesn't diminish your value in any way whatsoever. This is a normal human experience. In my experience, I've heard all kinds of voices telling me all kinds of things to do or not to do, or how to act or not to act, or what might happen or what might not happen. And it's the question then comes, how do I choose? How do I discern and decide what to do? And you can learn that. And sometimes you're going to make a mistake. Me too. But anyway, I've gone on. Hopefully some of that's helpful. Ryan or Princess, did either of you have anything else you wanted to say about this topic?
I have one short thing.
Sure.
And that's just this. Everything Joe said is absolutely awesome. Again, I'm not trying to disprove this self-diagnosis in any kind of way. But I do want to tell you a very short, interesting thing I learned recently about voices in our head. I met someone, for the sake of their anonymity, whatever. I can't speak today. I don't even know words. Anonymity. I have
Anonymity.
And it is anonymity? Okay, so I got it right. Anonymity. Okay, so I got it right the second time.
Yeah.
All right. Anyhow, for their sake, I won't mention their name, but they didn't have a voice in their head. They thought thoughts, but there were no words. They had to actually go seek professional training courses to start thinking in words in their head. And they never had a problem thinking. They didn't have to take this course, but they chose to. But they never, I don't know if they'd call it a course, but they never had to get training. They just never had words in their head, ever. Their thoughts were thoughts, not words, right? Most of us experience thoughts as words, but if you were from a different language, you would hear thoughts from a different language. And if you were multilinguistic, you might even hear voices from different languages, right? All of that is to say, a lot of what goes on in our brain are our thoughts. And they exist there because we thought them. And they're the words that just come to us. Your brain could have developed a secondary conscience within itself. Is that possible? I don't know. Brains are funky. They're not a field that has been completely discovered yet. Could there be two minds in one brain? Well, there can't be two souls, but there could be two possibly different thought trains, and then they have to communicate to each other every once in a while, right? It's a possibility. But what's very likely, what's more common, is that you just had a thought, and it was a random thought that came to you, and it says it in your brain. Because that happens to me a lot. And it can take on any kind of voice. I've never named it, and I recognize some people don't even have that, because some people have no words to their conscience at all. So my point isn't to say that you have a problem. My point is to just recognize that it might not be a thing, and it might be. It's better to get it diagnosed. But either way, follow everything Joe said, because you have control. and you can do good with it or not. Um, and you can let it master you, or you can be its master. And I think that yeah, you take the right road for you. But it's just an interesting thing I wanted to share. Again, not attempting to disprove anything, just to put out possibilities of, hey, maybe it's just normal. Because I would hate for you to think that it was something and find out later in your life that it was just a normal thing all along, and you thought you had something strange and unique that was tormenting you.
Mhm.
And on the
So
flip side, it would really also not be good for it to be the opposite where,
right.
oh, you just think that this is just how it's supposed to be, and you just
Hmm.
can't function as well as other people only to find out, there are ways to actually help it and it actually was a real problem that
Hmm.
needed some
Mm,
help and attention,
Right.
you know.
Yep.
mm,
That's true.
So in the end, what is the diagnosis for? The
Hmm.
diagnosis is there for change, right? It's to understand, it's to see, to recognize and see and acknowledge a problem and then work towards a solution. Because the first half of the battle is knowing you have a problem, you know, right? And that might be at where you're at, which is, assessing it. Part of it is does this voice in your head, does it cause you problems? Does it make you do things you don't want to do? Is it influencing you in ways that, is rude? Or is it just there as like another part of you? Because it could also just be, maybe it's just a part of you that's there as well. And it's just another part of you. It's like, oh, I would really like to say this kind of funny joke, you
Hmm.
know? But maybe where you're at right now with, your relationships with others or with that, you wouldn't feel comfortable saying it. But that thought is still there. And it
mhm,
could just be a representation of how that manifests for you in the way that you think, you
Hmm.
know?
Right. And that's was the
So,
case for me. So
yeah. And I
yeah.
mean, there's nothing wrong with giving it a name. There's nothing wrong with other
mhm,
things like that. I know for me, when I was going through a really rough patch, I remember that there was a particular voice that came to me in my head. And I gave it a name. It actually is one of the reasons I had the online name I had is because I named it Ren. So that's where my original online handle that people may or probably don't know me as was Angel Ren Shibuya.
Mm.
Um, and that was because for me, that voice was very helpful in making it through a really tough time. And so the thoughts that came, and it was a particular type of thought pattern for me. And so that's why, because it was recognizable in that sense, it wasn't just a willy-nilly thought, but it was a series of thoughts that came up that I gave it a name. I don't necessarily think that I would associate with having a dissociative disorder. Not that you couldn't shove it, but again, it's just naming something. And often what it is it's understanding something because it's causing a problem in one way, shape, or form, you know? And it's understanding yourself. So I would rather than having a friend or just, talking about it, I know that it can be helpful to have a name to a problem, or having a name to a way that you feel because that can help you be like, "Yes, I belong. I have a group. I'm not, far out just, on my own. I have a community and there's other people that feel like I have, you know. Um but I would certainly actually get it assessed before really, putting that upon yourself as I am this.
mm,
It doesn't
mhm,
mean that you are or you aren't. It's nothing to say that, you can't be like I identify with this. But identifying and having that label are two different things, right? So, I mean, you've identified it as something that you think is worth pursuing in that it could be that. Cool. But I wouldn't define yourself solely or entirely by that. When I read this and I hear like, "Oh, I'm a system." You're a person. Your brain works like a system. Your brain might work in ways that are similar to a machine, but you aren't a machine. You aren't a system. You aren't just a person with a voice in their head. You're much more than that. And there's much more things that are likely at play, especially because you mentioned that you might have complex PTSD. You know, there's many things that could be going on too that are underlying that. And in some ways, it could be like, oh, well, this is a symptom of an underlying problem that I have. And the best thing that you can do to figure out how to resolve underlying problems that are affecting your life is going to be a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So I highly recommend when you have the opportunity, if you have the opportunity, finding a way to have the opportunity to get a therapist um, that you can talk to about this and about, you know, whether it's, right for you or how to help with that. Um, because again, it it's not just about, oh, I have a problem. It's about what are ways, what are things we can do to help resolve it so that it's not, detracting from your life.
Mhm.
And if it's not detracting from your life, but it's just there, I mean, it's in some ways a cool fun fact, but it's not necessarily like a big thing that you need to put a giant label on. Oh, I'm a dissociative person, that you need to take as a baggage that you drag everywhere with you, you know. 'Cause it's not fun, and it's not cool. As being someone who has anxiety, sometimes it feels like I come someplace and I'm like, "Hi, I have anxiety, I'm doing my best, and I'm working towards it, but it's gonna exist, and it could be a problem here or there. So I'm just letting you know if I have a freak out, that it's there, but then it's like it's sitting on the table like a glass, and it's there, and it's, with you, and if the glass gets picked up and is, like, sipping or whatever, it's like it's really obvious. It's there. And now it's in the vision the whole time. Like this is my anxiety, as an example. So now it's very obvious that there's anxiety in my hand. And sometimes it might shake or not, and it becomes a distraction sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the worry that I have when it comes to these types of self-diagnoses, especially when you continue chaining it into multiple things, you know. Again, it's real and it's something to work towards. But you also don't have to share it in a way that you have to have that. You don't have to have that label. It's not something you have to share. You can keep that completely to yourself. If you need help, I mean, sharing with a therapist makes sense, but you don't need to define yourself by the different quirks you have.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be that it's you plus your anxiety or you plus your PTSD, your trauma, the things you've been through. I mean, certainly there are times where those will come and affect your life, but it's not just that makes you you. So I'm
Mm.
sorry I've kind of rambled,
No, no,
but
that's good. Thank
No,
you.
not at all. I wouldn't consider that rambling. I would consider
That's
that
great.
wisdom.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, I just want to say that you're awesome. Um, you mentioned that you are in your junior year of high school. So, anonymous, if you can't see a therapist, I recognize a lot of people. Um, we've had over our um, I don't know, over Don't Worry Wednesday, saying that they can't really see a therapist, their parents won't let them, blah blah blah. If that's your case, um, I would say do your best. Just do your best, trying to solve things the best you can on your own. And when you get out of care of your parents and you can at least just go and get one yourself, do so as soon as you can. Um, I recognize that sometimes that's the place people are in, and all that they can do is do their best. So just do your best. Do your best with all that you've got, and get a therapist when you can. But if you can get one now, awesome. I do urge you to. And I think that if you've got symptoms like these and things to work through that are going to be you're going to be dealing with the rest of your life. I think the better you get it figured out for you, the better life is going to be. So yeah, for sure.
I agree. You guys are so awesome.
You're awesome.
Well, thank you. And Anonymous, you are awesome. And thank you so much for the topic. Thank you all for being here on this this week's Don't Worry Wednesday. We covered a lot of ground on some stuff. You guys got to yeah, we did a lot of romantic stuff and yeah, great.
Yeah, well, only did one romantic segment. Come on.
That's true. The other one was
That's good.
about depression, but it was like the romantic partnership type, like helping.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. It was good. But anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you all for your topics. If you have a topic and you'd like to submit it to us, you can go to don'tworrywednesday.com, click the submit a topic button, and just fill out the little form there, and we will get it in our list to be done next time or in a future show. We generally only have time to do about 2 or 3 topics in a show. We get to talk for a while sometimes, depending on how deep the topic is. But anyway, thank you guys so much for all of your topics. Thank you for all of your contributions in the chat. You guys were lovely. There was a lot of great advice, a lot of great stuff, a lot of love in there. And yeah, we love you guys. That's why we do this show, because we love you and we want to help in any way we possibly can. And you guys are just so doggone impressive. You don't even realize it.
Absolutely.
You don't even
That's
realize
so true.
it.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here. We could not do this show without you guys in the chat, without your topics, without, you guys are awesome. So come back next week and we will see you on Wednesday for Don't Worry Wednesday. Until then, have a wonderful, wonderful life. We love you guys and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye-bye. Peace.